Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Energize Your Online Business podcast. Hey there, ladies.
Hello.
Hello. So as always, I am joined by my fabulous co-host, Kate Sitaris. Hello, Kate.
Hello.
Hello. And today, Kate and I have the pleasure of being joined by copywriter and copy coach to amazing entrepreneurs, Marisa Corcoran. Hey, Marisa.
Hi, Nikki. I'm so excited to be here with you. This is so great.
We are so excited to be here with you too. And, we're going to talk all things messaging for entrepreneurs, which is especially exciting because both Kate and my background is in copywriting. So here we have three, dare I say, master copywriters in the room, here to give tips about copy and how entrepreneurs can really dial it in. Marisa, how did you get into copywriting?
Oh gosh, I always say that Winnie the Pooh broke me. And I say this because I was an actor. I got my MFA in acting from the American Repertory Theater at Harvard. Mm-hmm. And when I went back to the city, I had a really good friend named Diana, who I had a manager now, I had an agent, and I couldn't really go back to nannying or, working all these jobs. I needed to kind of be available for auditions. And one of my best friends, Diana, this is like 2013, and she was a parenting coach. And I remember she was in a mastermind, like the online world was still kind of this wild, wild west. I mean, it still is. And she said, people in here, they need support with writing for their websites. And she knew that I had kind of supported like some of my friends in grad school and like their thank you emails to agents and such. And I had a little bit of a creative writing background. She's like, you can make your own schedule, like just say yes. So she got me my first gig where I wrote a JV packet for somebody. And I remember I had no clue what that was. And the person asked me, could I write one? I said, sure. Would you just send me a sample of a JV packet that you love so I can just get a feel for your style? And that's how I learned I was writing an affiliate packet. And I kind of failed my way forward, nailing certain jobs, learning on the way. And I was acting on this and I was performing. And I had this audition for Winnie the Pooh. I was supposed to play auditioning for the character of Rabbit. And I was like, Rabbit is going to be so sassy and cool. And like Marisa Tomei for my cousin Vinny. And like, I got this. I had overalls. And then that Monday, I'll never forget, there was a mix up with my union status. And they said they didn't need me to come in for the audition. And I remember I was just like devastated. This children's show, I was devastated. And I started taking off my overalls one by one. And still I was just standing naked in our kitchen. And I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. So that was a day I just decided I wasn't going to be, that my whole life leading up to being an actor, I'm in my mid 30s at this point, was like, I'm not going to do it. And I kind of just dove in. At that point, I had a retainer of clients. I didn't have any other side jobs. I was pretty fortunate that I had a retainer of clients. And then I went, okay, well, if I'm not going to be a famous actor, like what the heck am I going to do? And then I thought, okay, if this is going to be my plan B, there could be no plan C. No. And I was like, I'm going to dive everything in because my clients were getting really great results because I was kind of applying this actor's guide to copy and teaching them how to do it through like how actors do things on stage, like intention and tactics and their audience. And that's what kind of gave me the idea of creating my own stage to bring people to me in the way that I did this by creating the copy chat. And so I put it together in the fall of 2018, which is my signature summit. We premiered it in February of 2019. And here we are 5 years later. It absolutely changed my life. Absolutely 100%. And we just finished season 7 of the copy chat, which is wild. So
amazing.
That Winnie the Pooh moment, it turned out to be a blessing.
It's a great origin story. I have to say though, I can really see you as Rabbit. So there's an alternate universe where the timeline split.
In the multiverse somewhere, I'm playing Rabbit
Yes,
in a children's show all the time. I still been like, oh my gosh, my ideas. I remember running it with my friend and like her laugh. She's like, your take on Rabbit is hilarious. I'm like, I know. And it was at like a pretty well-known theater where I had been told from friends, if you can get in here, there's so many opportunities to get on the main stage and do stuff. Like they're going to see all your comedic chops, like really go for it. And I was like, all right, this is going to be it. And then that's okay. It led me somewhere else.
Yeah, exactly. It was just it in a different direction.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, and having a background in acting, you're saying is really lends itself well to copywriting, because so much of copywriting is actually putting yourself in the target audience's shoes, right? Is looking at the world from their perspective, really getting to understand what they want and what they need. And, one of the things, our CSS students know that we really lean into messaging in our programs. But one of the things that I think that you do so well is really dig into an entrepreneur's brand voice and help teach them what their brand voice is and how to infuse it in the rest of their work. And obviously that is a big, long process, but what are some of kind of the first steps that you take a business owner through to help get them started on that journey?
Yeah, this is so great. So I always say that people make purchasing decisions based on two things. One is what you're selling, something that I want or I need. That's your messaging, like you said, Nikki. That's why your message matters so much. And number two, are you the person that I want to do it with? And this is where that your voice, your values, your vibe comes in, especially if you consider you're someone to be in a saturated market. Like, how do you truly stand out? And this is where that personality really has to come through. And so this is something that I walk people through inside of the Copy Confidence Society. It's the very first thing that business owners do is you uncover what your personality, not contrived, not made up by somebody else, not mimicking someone else's voice. Because when I say this, people will say, well, if I don't have like a big, if I'm not super bombastic or extroverted, then I'm not going to stand out, which is not true. But I understand why people think that, because we often see those personalities rise to the top, or we think that that's what you need. So people will manufacture that, but then that's not really who they are. So how do we get to the core of that? And so it's the first thing that you do inside of the Copy Confidence Society by uncovering what we call your copy star, which comes from the world of acting. So when I was an actor, me, my friends, in order to tell our agents like what to send us out for, like what our type was, we wanted to make sure our headshots, the pieces that we chose, what we were going in for actually represented us, that we would get cast as that. So were we the quirky best friend? Were we the femme fatale? Were we what people refer to as like the leading lady? And so I created 5 of them for your copy star. So you can be the hooker with a heart of gold. You can be the relentless cheerleader. You can be the nerdtastic leader, the quirky misfit, or the red hot trailblazer. And you can be a combo. You can be a triplet. You can make up your own. The whole goal here is to give you a barometer so that you truly can step into who you are. And there's a few key things that we ask, which is, what are the strengths that you already do really, really well? Like, are you that ultimate coach for your clients? Are you really great at kind of teaching and breaking things down into really doable lessons for people? Do you really shine when you are kind of like laying down the law for people, like the hooker with a heart? You got that feistiness. Or do you kind of I always say like the quirky misfit always has some sort of like, they have a sidekick, right? Like essential oils, tarot, everything that the quirky misfit does has like this woo to it. So how do we bring that, but then maybe borrow from something like the nerdtastic leader, which is more step-by-step, to like ground the quirky misfit a bit more. So we really walk you through this process. So the first thing is like leaning into what you're already great at. Let's lean there first, and then we can borrow from the other copy stars and leaning into like what those superpowers are. So I always talk about like, probably won't be a surprise to you, I'm the hooker with a heart of gold. And I really base this, like when I entered the online world, as I was just saying, like everybody was talking about like open rates and funnels and tripwires. And I was like, okay, cool. But I wanted to talk about like relationships. And so I tried, even the way I showed up, it was like everybody was in an Ann Taylor blazer. And I was like, and if that's you, do that. But that wasn't me. So I thought, okay, I'm going to really start dressing how I'm going to put like my hoops on. I'm going to wear like my rock t-shirts. I'm going to really focus on my emails, telling stories, like really see. And I started to see my audience and the right people coming to me. So really leaning into my hooker with a heart of goldness, and then borrowing from like the nerdtastic leader when I needed to be more step-by-step and really breaking things down for people. And I found that really helps people when you unlock your copy star. I watch people be like, oh my gosh, I finally have like something to go off of, to know that, so I'm not mimicking someone else, so I can really show up as myself. And that's kind of what I saw, where people were like, oh, I love the stories about like your grandpa or your former life as an actor, your struggle with acne. And I want to create that trust with my audience. And I was like, oh, okay, we're on to something here. And then really honoring those other personality types as well.
Yeah. Oh, that makes so much sense. Well, and the thing is too, is that they think so many business owners struggle with their messaging because it's focused on themselves. And when you turn that inward, it can be hard to figure out exactly what that means to be writing about yourself and about your offering. So to give them frameworks and to give them steps is really, really amazing.
So I'm curious because it sounds like one of the maybe mistakes that people make is that they're trying to fit into a voice that's not theirs. Are there other common mistakes that you see business owners making that you have to kind of redirect them in another way?
Yeah, this is such a great question. This actually goes back to the messaging. Like, we can do nothing if we don't have that solid what I do statement, how you talk about what you do. Because you can have all the personality in the world, what's unique and authentic to you, but if it isn't rooted in that strong messaging. So I always tell people, like, 90% of the time you don't have a copy problem, you have a messaging problem. And so people say, oh, I tried this sales page template or this and it didn't work for me. And it's like, and then you think, oh, the person that sold it to you isn't great at what they do, or you're not great at what you do. And both of those are usually false. The person who sold it to you is great. You're great at what you do. It's not a copy problem. It's a messaging problem. So the number one mistake I watch people do is we have to get that right first. So this is like the second thing that we do in the society, but we do them together. So there's like a way that we look at your personality, we combine it with your messaging, and we kind of come back to make sure that they go together. But the best copy can't fix a muddied message. I can have the greatest personality, but I wasn't just going to come out and just tell stories about my grandpa and people were just going to buy from me. I needed to be able, I mean, maybe he's pretty great. He was pretty great. If anything could be close to it, it was this man. But like, I have so many funny stories of him that I told in emails, but I needed to root that back into being what I call a specialist in a sea of generalists, so that people knew exactly what I did and how I could help them. And that then, yes, I was the person to do it because they were attracted in some way to the way that I showed up in the world, my voice, my vibe, and all that. So messaging is a big thing that I see. Mm-hmm. We talked about people mimicking someone else's voice or feeling like, oh, well, if I'm a quieter type, I find this with the relentless cheerleaders. So relentless cheerleaders, they're like the ultimate, coach or service provider for their people. And so they're like, well, I don't really want to talk that much about myself. And so they're like, well, I guess I can't put out content. But the relentless cheerleader actually can thrive by talking about their clients, like really using that as it doesn't always have to be about them, which other of the stars can't carry as well because it's not as authentic as it is to the relentless cheerleader. So really uncovering that authenticity. And the other mistake I see people make is, how do I say this? Like, they don't give themselves time to let it marinate or sit. They're like, well, I put this out in my new voice, or, what I think is, and okay, whatever. Like they don't give themselves time to really let it sit on them and like wear it and figure it out. So when you're on stage as an actor, you do the table read and everybody's excited. Then you get into rehearsals and I'll never forget. I was like, I suck. Who cast me? Why would I be in this? I'm horrible. And you have to go through that to get to the other side. But like in the online world, people are telling you in 3 days, you're going to be a cajillionaire. But writing is it's a creative process. So you got to give yourself time to put it together and like marinate it. And the other mistake I see, which is the third thing we do in the society, is not including the words of your ideal client. So yes, we need messaging, your personality, but we have to speak to the ideal client. So we do this whole thing in the third section of the society. We get a little help from Don Draper and the cast of Mad Men. Don Draper, horrible at marriage, amazing at advertising. So we borrow his ad skills and we really dive into the words of your ideal client. We do it a bit differently, which I know some people don't always agree with me on this, is like, I don't really care what your ideal client, like if they drink coffee or tea, or if they do like yoga or Pilates. I want to know what you drink. I want to know, because that's the stuff that goes into I want to know if you do yoga or Pilates. That's your personality. I'm talking about how they feel about their issue, how they would describe, like what it's going to be like if they get to the other side of it. And a lot of times people will adjective stuff. They'll be like, you're feeling overwhelmed, but after this program, you're going to feel fulfilled. And like in this economy, like that's just not going to cut it.
Yeah.
We got to get super split. What's overwhelmed look like for your ideal client?
Mm-hmm.
What's fulfilled look like for them? And we got to get into the specifics there.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the main things I would say.
Yeah. And those are great points. We talk to business owners who say, well, okay, I know that's how they describe it, but this is how I describe it. And you have to say, no. But they need to know that you know how they describe it, and you can use the same words, because it's I think people think leaning on pictures and leaning on Instagram and all of this kind of stuff, or I have to do videos. But so much of that know, like, and trust factor can come just through messaging, can come through a really genuine email. You don't have to be doing live events constantly in order for people to get to know you. When it's an email's put together well, and you share a story, you can get just as much know, like, and know, like, and trust and expertise in an email that's been pre-scheduled and has been going out to people for months.
100%. I see that in our welcome sequence, like emails that I've written, and I go back about every year and I see like what were really popular thing in emails that people loved. And often I will insert them into the welcome series, or take out an email that maybe isn't doing as well and insert them into the welcome series. So it's not even, I tell people, like, for your welcome series, you don't even have to create from scratch. It's likely things that you've already written that we can kind of put in there. So just starting to give, that's what I'm saying, of giving yourself that process.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I see, especially quirky misfits do, was what I call curse of the coach, is that the quirky misfit knows that this is like going to change your whole life. Well, you know that because you drink the Kool-Aid, you're on the inside.
Mm-hmm.
Or you ask people who are already your clients. So when people go to do ideal client work, they'll go ask their clients already. Well, they've already drank the Kool-Aid. They're not going to give you the language. So like quirky misfits will be like, you're going to wake up and your whole purpose has changed. So like somebody who's thinking about, we have to speak to them like over here at the beginning. And so sometimes with quirky misfits, I have to tell them like, you're right. Yes. But we have to give them what they're looking for. And I always say, like, when we started working with our financial coach, I went in to work with Amber because my husband was a stand-up comic and I was an actor, and we were making money, and we were like, we don't know what to do. We're used to being broke and literally sharing a piece of cheese at Astoria Beer and Cheese in Queens. Like, what do we do? So I went in because Amber's language was so concrete and clear. Then on the inside, Amber's a total quirky misfit. It was like tapping and energy and blah, blah, blah. But like I went in, and I knew a little bit of that, but I went in because the messaging was so clear and specific and speaking to me where I was. Then once I was on the inside and I like trusted Amber and loved her so much, it was like all these other things were more open to me. So I see curse of the coach sometimes too.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. And you probably see the same thing as well, is that when people are like, well, I'm solving the problem that I'm my own target audience. I'm solving the problem that I had. They're trying to use the language that they use now, but that's not the way they talked about it when they had that problem. So trying to use that language without talking to their target audience and digging into the way they're talking about it now is going to be a disconnect.
100%. And I don't think we don't see that often, which is why I think it's so important to be in community that's why I always say like copy is never going out of style. Like it's like Taylor Swift, 1989 style. Like it's always going to be in style. And it's probably, perhaps number one skill you can have, because you can always kind of come back to that. So it's sometimes hard to see that for yourself. So enlisting that support, it's one of the things that I really try to instill in people in the society, of starting to spot that for people so they can really see the difference, so they can start making that connection better in their own copy.
Mm-hmm. I think that's brilliant.
So I know we touched at kind of giving copy an opportunity to marinate and really, really sit. And I think that part of that too, that we see is that, people will change their messaging and then have, 5 people go through an email series or something and freak out when it doesn't do what it's supposed to do or whatever it is. And you don't hit that actual threshold of enough data to know if it's working. But what advice do you have along those lines of like, when it is time to maybe, okay, we tested like this, let's test this. And how do you guide your business owners to to do that and go through that process of kind of optimizing, if you will?
Yeah. So the things that we're looking for is, first off, like you said, Kate, giving it a chance to have like the real data. Like what are we setting up for like the numbers that we want to see? Mm-hmm. So sometimes I'll have people be like, oh, I don't think my lead magnet is resonating. I need to create a new lead magnet. I'm like, okay, time out. How many people have actually seen it? How many times have you actually put it out there? Like we always are like kind of reverse engineering to say, I don't want you to have to go create something new if we don't have to. And this is, so I have a Copy Confidence Society alum where this was totally the case. They were convinced like, oh, I need a new lead magnet. And then I was like, well, where have you been sharing it? And the answer was like, nowhere. So we really dove into our content module where we're talking about, so we have this thing, this is the wackiest thing, like we have the wackiest person on the podcast. So your best copy is only as good as people experience it. So we have this thing in our content module called the promo ho files, which is, sometimes I say this, I'm like, I can't believe that like this is my life. It's so fun and so awesome. But the promo ho files, and we do a promo ho challenge. We do like a 30-day promo ho challenge, which is all these ways of getting these pieces, specific pieces of copy. And so this person through the promo ho challenge really focused on doing like some lead magnet swaps with people and their ideal partnerships, sharing it in their social media, like sharing it, and all of a sudden saw this uptick where the opt-in page was actually converting pretty well. So we first have to kind of decide what's the threat, how many people do we want to see, what are we looking at? And then if we've gone through those steps where a certain amount of people have seen it and we're not seeing, then we're going to kind of look and see but even before I change the content, I go, is the title of the lead magnet? Mm-hmm. Maybe the innards is great, but the title isn't resonating. So maybe we got to split test that. Or sometimes an opt-in page, I'm using lead magnets as an example, but sometimes the opt-in page, like we can split test a super short opt-in page versus a little bit longer. And we did this actually for the Leave on Wanting More Masterclass, which is the free class that we offer for people. It's like a preview class of the Copy Confidence Society, but also talks about some of the things we've been talking about, like the copy stars and your messaging. And so we split tested that to see, did a super short opt-in page convert better than a little bit of a longer one to find out. So I love to split test like different pages to see. And then looking like for emails, okay, what are those open rates? Or people go, oh, the email, like nobody liked it. It's like, well, it probably, a lot of times it's not your email. It might be your subject line. So let's even for myself, I've noticed that I went through this phase last year where all I did was focus on subject lines. All I did. I have a freebie on it too, but I was like, I'm going on the inside. And that's all I did. It was like sending out things I sent before just with news, just to see. And it's wild. Like, again, I always want to tell people, like, we don't have to redo everything. Let's actually look at these smaller chunks. So and I think the common denominator here is usually something like those things that people see right away, the headlines, the subject line, that very, very, very rarely is it like the meat. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense? Does that help?
It absolutely does. It absolutely does. Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's the subject line. I think most people write it last and they throw it away. But if your subject line isn't good, it doesn't matter how good your email is. Nobody's going to open it and they'll never know. Yeah. So tell us more about the masterclass. We're going to have a link to it in the show notes because I know everybody's going to want to get in on it. But yeah, tell us more about it.
Yeah, it's called the Leave 'em Wanting More Masterclass, and it's the 3-part framework to whip up irresistible copy with creativity and chutzpah. And inside of the class, we're really breaking down what we kind of talked about. People make those purchasing decisions based on 2 things. So first, how do we make sure that your messaging, that what I do statement as a business owner is it's clear, it's succinct. And we do it with a little help from the Ghostbusters, because the Ghostbusters have the most perfect messaging. You know who you're going to call, you know when you call them, you know why you call them. And the Ghostbusters, they wear that proton pack, the laser that they use to fight the ghosts. Mm-hmm. So we call it in the Copy Confidence Society, the proton pack messaging playbook. Mm-hmm. So we run through that and those P's to help you kind of uncover that clear messaging. Then we break down the copy stars so you can start to see yourself in the process, like a combo triplet. And then we also break down what we call the 6 post prompts, like how to take those and start to give you some like lead-ins for different posts you can use for email, social posts. So it gives you a taste of what life is like inside of the Copy Confidence Society. I offer you an opportunity to join the society. But no matter what, I think it's a great way to come in and start to really dive into that what I do statement as a business owner. Maybe that feels really clear to you, but that personality piece, so the copy stars, or just getting a different look at like the way we approach posts and different angles. And it's live with me. It is not pre-recorded. There are 3 dates and times to choose from. And I always say it's live. It's like Broadway. So you pick which day and time you want to come to. I'm in a different outfit in each one, but it's the same class, and we have different times to kind of accommodate the different time zones. And I stay on and answer questions. And it's my absolute favorite thing. Like, I'm like, if I could just run the Leave a Money More Masterclass, I just absolutely love doing it, no matter what people decide. If you decide to join us for the society or not, I think there's just so many solid things that you can start to infuse that are going to support you no matter like another program that you're in. Because again, copy is so needed. And a lot of times you go into a business coaching program or another program where copy is needed to make that come alive, but it's like hidden in the ethers of like Kajabi somewhere. It's like, oh yeah, we have a copy, and so we really kind of bring copy to the forefront to like help you in whatever else you're doing so that you can really reap the kind of ROI of your other investments as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Messaging is the most important part of your business. If you can't make sales without messaging. So I would strongly encourage everybody listening or watching or whatever to be a part of this. Because first of all, Marisa's amazing and it will be a fun event, but also so valuable. There are very few things that you can put your time and energy into as a business owner that will reap greater rewards than digging into your messaging. Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. And I always say like, especially if maybe you've been in business for a little bit, is like, okay, how can I become that specialist in a sea of generalists? So like one of our rock stars in the society, like came into the society as a health coach, just like, okay. And she had a background in nutrition. She could help with a variety of things, right? But how is she really standing out? And what she found by walking through the Proton Pack messaging playbook and the P's is that where she really wanted to put her focus was to help people uncover what to eat and when to eat it, to break through to their migraine-free life, really even focus on like hormonal headaches, and it's someone I talk about in the class where I show, and it's important to know what we just talked about. We didn't go in and change every single freaking thing she had. We really were like, let's just hone in on this. And she talks about in the society of when she applied this, making more in that first part of the year than she had done the year prior, because the messaging was so clear. And like, yes, we have things like those kind of wowza kind of money things that happen, but even those internal things of people who say, my God, it used to take me, one of our people, Sheila, was like, it used to take me a week to write an email. And when I actually truly got clear on what my messaging was, she's got it down first off to like 45 minutes, just like pretty awesome. Right. And that again comes from being clear on the messaging. So it's just like I always say it's like, like a black leather jacket in the sea of what's ever trending, like those clear heels that are trending right now. You notice that everyone's wearing like a clear heel again?
The Lucite's, yeah.
The Cinderella moment.
Yes, the Cinderella moment, or like the clear ones. I wore those to my prom, but that was 20 years ago. I didn't know. I was like, they're back. I should have kept mine.
And I guess another question I have is if someone is listening, they're an entrepreneur, they're a business owner, they're thinking, this is great, but I plan on hiring a copywriter. Is this still a process that they're needing to go through? I mean, I think I have a sense of what you're going to say, but
totally. But and I'll tell you for 2 reasons. Number one, the first part of the Copy Confidence Society is exactly what I used to do with my private clients. It's exact. It's that time as an actor, understanding their personality. We do this thing called we help you create your word closet, which is like the words and phrases that you actually say. So we can start to kind of sub out like generic things that we hear in the emails, and we can actually make it sound like you. This is how my clients would be like, oh my gosh, this email sounds so much like me. And I'm like, I know, because I took stuff from your word closet and your accessories closet, which is like favorite things that I would insert. So instead of saying like, hold my beer, like somebody might be like, oh, in an email, hey, but I bet you're wondering like of the results that you can get from the Copy Confidence Society. Hold my beer, because here they come. Instead of saying hold my beer, I would say, which I'm holding right now, hold my Earl Grey tea with oat milk creamer. Right. So my clients would be like, oh, how do you know that? Like I drink like a matcha. I'm like, you told me in our intake. And I have. So that's what we do in the society is like, it's in the beginning is the ideal client work, the messaging, the personality, putting that together. which if you are then going to hire a copywriter is going to thank you for this because you are giving them the foundation so that then they can actually insert those things into the copy, because a great copywriter is already going to likely have some idea of a sales page template, how that all works. But now they're going to actually have something they can insert into it. Secondly, we have a lot of business owners who send their copywriters or people who work for them to the program. We actually had an influx of that last round where people, a couple people sent their copywriter to it to go through it like as them, which I also always think is a really cool thing for somebody to do, because that copywriter gets to go through that process for this client, but also gets to get some great tools and tricks for themselves in our copy modules as well. So I feel like it's super, super beneficial. But again, going back to the first 3 modules of the society are what I did with private clients for the years that I took private clients from 2013 until 2019 when I took my last private client, 2020. I don't even know what year is. I'm like, wasn't 2020 last year? And then somebody was like, it's going to be 4 years ago. And I'm like, no, it's not. So, but yeah. So and again, another thing that we have is that people will go back to, so one of our rock stars, Sammy, and I talk about this in the class, talks about every year she kind of revisits those first 3 modules of the society to like make sure that it's still like on point for her in revisiting this. So it also gives you something that you can use again and again and again to go back to as your business evolves. Yeah. And that's really my hope for people, is to take it and use it and keep using it as your business grows.
Yeah. Well, and it's so important for business owners to understand their own messaging, because it's like, I'm sure we all know business owners who there was something they want to do in their business. They're like, I don't know how to do it, so I'm just going to hire a company to do it for me. And then because they don't fundamentally understand it to begin with, they hire this company, they don't get the results that they wanted, and they don't know why. Was it the company? Was it the way they did it? It can be dangerous. It can be certainly a money suck if instead of going, all right, I'm going to at least learn the fundamentals of this. I'm going to learn what I'm looking for when I'm dealing with this person that I hire, to just completely, and especially with something as important as your messaging, right? It is, again, the most important part of your business. So and believe me, I'm all for hiring copywriters, certainly. But just to completely go, well, I don't know what to do, you figure it out, I would say it's dangerous. You want to be educated as much as possible into what your messaging should be, so that you can then collaborate with that copywriter and end up with the best possible outcome.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. It saves you so much money, so much time in the long run. And I have some of my friends, like I learned from some copywriters that I just are so genius, but it doesn't mean that they were messaging. We talk about being a specialist in a sea of generalists. It's the same. A lot of copywriters, like I used to work for this like a kind of a copy agency, where they really only took on people once the messaging was clear, because as a copywriter, that's the way you're going to actually get copy that converts and you get like better results for them. So having that messaging is so useful and powerful for you to know how to communicate it. And we're not just talking about writing too. So people come into society, we're like, I'm not a good writer, I'll never be a good writer. I'm like, well, what we're doing right now is copy. We're just speaking it. So I have people who really are in the society to like get clear on that, so that when they're on a podcast, they can talk about what they do with clarity and confidence, what they're in a room with people. It doesn't always have to be written. We have people like, if you're the hooker with a heart of gold, a lot of times the highest pieces of like conversion for you are going to be like live videos or videos where people like can see you. That's still copy. You're just speaking it. So again, copy it ain't going out of style.
No, it definitely is not. Yeah. Marisa, this has been so much fun. I could talk with you for hours, and plan to when you're back in the Northeast.
Yeah, we're going to hang in Boston.
Yes, we absolutely are. And I know we'll include the link to the masterclass. Everybody just sign up for it. Do yourself a favor, do your business a favor, do your revenue a favor, and sign up for it. But also, where can people find you online? How can they follow you and all that stuff?
Yeah. So the simplest thing for the masterclass is easy. It's my name, marisacorcoran.com/masterclass. It'll bring you there. Super easy. And then, really getting a taste for what we do and how, even more of this conversation inside, we have a free Facebook group called the Copy Chat. Facebook group, which I always tell people is a great place to kind of come in and get a little bit more of a feel of like the community. It's also a great place to ask your copy questions. And Instagram, I like really love. So you can DM. I always love if people DM me on Instagram. My team supports me in there, but it will be me responding to you. So, DM me. It's at mtoni, Toni.
Mm-hmm.
I'm eventually going to change it, I think, to the real Marisa Corcoran. But for now, still at mtoni, because when I started, it's like when I started my Instagram, I was like, oh, I was still like an actor. I was like, what happens with this copy thing? And Toni Braxton is like my absolute favorite. And my stage name was mtoni Frada, like my maiden name, whatever. But at mtoni, mtoni, and just like shoot me a DM. And like, if there's something you heard or something that really stood out to you or another question that you have, like I will respond to you in there.
Amazing. Yeah. That's amazing opportunity. So take advantage of it, friends. Yes. Absolutely. All right. Well, Marisa, thank you so much. I definitely think this is one where people are going to go back and take notes and then reach out and then be part of the masterclass. It's amazing. Right. Thank you so much. So
thank you for having me. It's so fun.
And so with that, we will catch you all in the next episode. Bye, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Do you want to learn how to sell and scale your offer on autopilot every single day without the chaos of live launching or the low conversions of Evergreen? Who doesn't, right? Get our free on-demand video training at circuitsalessystem.com/free. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to this channel to make sure you never miss a video. We'll catch you next time.